Tolerance. Matra sparshastu kauntiya shitoshna sukhadukada agama payino nitya stangstitikshvasva bharata. The temporary appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance over time are like the coming and going of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. In this picture is a very nice depiction of the relationship between the spirit self, the subtle body, and the gross physical body. The horses are depicting our senses, and each of these horses are being attracted by their sense objects. The nose wanting to smell, the tongue wanting to taste, the ears wanting to hear, the eyes wanting to see, the genitals wanting to procreate and to engage in pleasure. And all these senses are being centered around the hub of the mind, which is also considered to be the master or the center of the senses. That all these senses, they put their input into the mind, and what the mind is doing is sankalpa vikalpa, is either accepting or rejecting the suggestions of the senses, accepting things which it would consider favorable and rejecting things which would be considered unfavorable. And depending on the type of mind one has developed as a consequence of the decisions we've made over many lifetimes, we will be predisposed differently towards a particular sensory input. Some people like sour tastes, some people prefer sweet, some people don't like sweet at all and they would prefer bitter or pungent or whatever the taste may be. So the mind is compared to being the reins that are steering these horses, these senses, to go this way or to go that way. And the driver, the one holding these reins, is the intelligence. And the intelligence is directing the mind that I want to go this way, I want to go that way. And the passenger in this chariot, that is us, the soul, simply sitting there being taken for a ride by the intelligence, the mind, and the senses. So one who has not subdued his mind does not have control over the senses, and that's almost like letting go of the reins and these horses just running wherever they want to be. This is actually one of the primary causes of the perplexion that we experience currently in our society at large, is due to unrestrained senses, uncontrolled senses. That some input comes and we desire it and we can't but help surrender to the pursuit of the satisfaction of those desires. And then we have manifestations like obesity and related diseases, heart diseases, cholesterol, blood pressure, simply because a person is not able to control the tongue. Or we have somebody who can't control the senses of the eyes, and therefore they can't help but look at the naked form of a man or a woman, or they can't help but look at very grotesque or ghastly imagery, or they can't help but look at money or or something like that, because they're completely slaves to their senses. And the real meaning of freedom is actually to become freed from the constant demands of the senses. When one does not control the senses act as a master, a very, very ruthless and unsatisfying master, saying, the tongue is saying, I want more to eat, and we're just saying, yes sir, immediately. The genitals are saying, I want sex, and you say, yes, I'll do something about it. The ears say, I want to hear something nice, and we just say, yes, on your command. Your desire shall be my desire. And in this way, we are serving this master, and each time we are bringing our offering to the senses respond with, is that all you got? Is that all you got? Get me some more. And in this way, this master is never satisfied. The master is never happy with whatever we bring into it. So freedom means to become freed from this tyrant and to take control. And the only way to do that is by fortifying our intelligence with transcendental knowledge, by understanding that we are spiritual beings transcendental to these senses, and that true satisfaction lies not in engaging the senses. It lies in our connection to Source. And that in fact, bliss or ananda is an inherent attribute of the soul. And when one connects to Source, automatically this identity is awakened, and the bliss automatically is experienced without endeavor, something that's always been there all along. And our pursuit for happiness is coming from the unnatural experience for the soul to be disconnected from that ananda, from that bliss. And in our confused state, by thinking that we are these bodies, that we are our mind, we're trying to find satisfaction through these mediums. It's a futile endeavor. In the animal kingdom, most animals find their peril due to being controlled by one of their senses. For example, a fish sees the bait lying on the hook, and it cannot help and it sees when another fish bites that it gets pulled away and killed. But yet when it sees that bait lying there, it cannot control itself because it's completely being subdued by its tongue, and it grabs hold of that bait, and that is the cause of its own demise. Similarly, a wolf. Hunters sometimes use the technique where a frozen piece of flesh is being left on a very sharp knife, and the wolf will start to lick this meat, and in the course it will start cutting itself, but it can't stop itself because of its intense attachment to that taste. And so the wolf cuts itself so severely that it bleeds out and dies. Similarly, an elephant. The way to capture an elephant is that you just train a female elephant, and you have her lure elephant somewhere in the bush, and you have a big hole which you cover. And as this male elephant is running after the female, it falls into this pit and is enslaved for the rest of its life. Simply because he could not control the action of his genitals. Or the deer, which loves to hear beautiful sounds. The hunter plays on the flute very beautifully and lures the deer in, and as the deer approaches, the hunter shoots it down. But in our human experience, we are being fooled, we are being lured away by each one of our senses, not just one, which actually puts us in a more dangerous situation if we are not able to bring our senses and our mind under control. So, the experience that we have of happiness and distress in this world, the duality, is simply because we rely so much on our sensual experience. A cold shower in the summer is very desirable and pleasurable, but in the winter, water of the same temperature is considered something that you want to avoid. But it's the same water, the same absolute temperature, but because of our sensory perception, we relate to it differently, and therefore we think this is good, this is bad. So the yogi aims to control the senses, and from the perspective of understanding that all these dualities, they're arising simply out of my sensory perception, and therefore I should not put so much weight on their importance. The yogi does not neglect that these things exist, but he does not consider them as important as the materialist does, understanding that I'm still having an experience of the duality, but this experience is not actually that important because I'm transcendental to these experiences, and therefore I should not allow my spiritual path to become disturbed or checked because of my experience of happiness and distress, which are just manifesting due to my sensory perception. So in yoga and meditation, the aspirant is attempting to rise beyond the senses with fortified knowledge, and also by applying themselves in discipline in an attempt to connect to the spirit essence that we are and all the bliss which is already there.